I'm Dick Arbuckle, and I've been the tight end coach at Arizona State University the last 9 seasons. I'm going to present the tight end in the passing game. Well, first let me say, gentlemen, that it's great to be here this afternoon to be able to talk to you about the tight end in the passing game. Over the last 25 years of coaching college football, I have coached every position on the offense: quarterbacks, offensive line, wide receivers, outside linebackers, and the last 9 seasons coaching the tight ends at Arizona State University. And I think that the variety of different positions that I've had an opportunity to coach has given me a very unique perspective on coaching the tight end position. One of my premises has been, irregardless of the level of football, whether it's junior high school, college, pro, that the tight end position, in my opinion, is one of the least coached positions on the football field. And the time that I have available to me today, I would like to really focus on the tight end in the passing game. Let me click on this overhead for just a minute. I don't want to get into a situation where I have to qualify necessarily my ability to coach the tight ends, but I do want to spend a little bit of time anyway talking about the qualifications, and thus I think you will get a better concept of what we're going to be doing here over the next hour or so. Just in the last 2 seasons, in the 99 and 2000 season, our tight ends have had 133 receptions. And we, of course, use multiple formations, and thus, at times, we will have, 2 tight ends in the game. And there have been occasions where we have had 3 tight ends in certain substitution groups. Primarily, however, most of the time, we were in a 1 tight end substitution group. But that is still, I think, a very qualitative statement that our tight ends have been very involved in the passing game. And over the last 9 seasons, as I mentioned, coaching the tight ends at Arizona State University, we have had 5 tight ends that have played in the NFL. Now, some of them have played over a longer period of time than others, but I think that has, certainly I've been blessed with, very good tight ends with a lot of ability, and hopefully I've been able to help them to become better and put them in a position where they have been able to take the next step and move on to the next level in the NFL and have an opportunity to be successful there. This past year, of course, we had an All-American, John Mackey, tight end player of the year finalist in Todd Heap. Now, Todd was just a junior, but he played three years for us at the tight end position, became a first-round draft choice by the Super Bowl champion Ravens in the 2001 NFL Draft. 3 of our tight ends are currently active in the NFL, including Todd, and the 4th tight end, who was our starting tight end on our Rose Bowl team of 1997, has played in the NFL since that time and is currently was recently released, and but I believe will be picked up shortly and be active for the 2001 season, which would so again, in terms of qualitative statement, I believe that there's some substance to the fact that we have certainly recruited some outstanding tight ends, but by the same token, we've been able to develop them and utilize them successfully in the passing game, which is the primary topic of our presentation today. Let me move on then and just generally show you what we are going to be doing here in the minutes ahead of us. This outline, the tight end in the passing game. All right? In a minute I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I refer to as the beauty and the beast position, which is the tight end position, and go into a little bit more detail on that. Then we're going to use some materials that are directly from our tight end manual. Each of our coaches have developed a position manual, and we've done the same thing for our tight ends. And I'm going to go through that material. Then we're going to get into some drills, okay, for developing the tight end pass receiving techniques. And then the last thing that we're going to get into would be some game examples of our tight end, and specifically emphasizing our option routes. Even though there are many other routes that the tight end runs, I want to focus on the option routes that we have in our system. So that's the general outline then of what we are going to accomplish today. All right, go through our tight end manual, emphasizing the concepts that we want to teach our tight ends, getting into drills for the development of the techniques and fundamentals of tight end play as it relates to the passing game, and then the third general phase would be game examples, breaking it down and showing you specifically the option routes that we have in our scheme. All right, a moment ago as I was going through the three areas that we're going to focus on today, I talked about the beauty and the beast. And this is basically a format that I put at the front of our tight end manual. And I talked to our tight ends about the concepts that are on this page. I'm not going to go into every sentence, every paragraph, every word in a lot of detail because we just don't have the time for that. But the thing that I would like to get across here is this kind of a hokey phrase, the tight end is both the beauty and the beast, is simply that the tight end is a very multi-dimensional position, maybe more so than any other position on the football team. And the beauty aspect of it kind of refers to the tight end in the passing game. The tight end has to really have the same kinds of techniques and fundamentals and catching and running ability as a wide receiver, as an example. The beast, of course, comes into play in the running game, which is not the focus of our discussion today, where the tight end has to be really another offensive lineman, whether or not he is blocking in one-on-one situations or whether he's in combination with the tackles. And he has to get down and dirty, so to speak, and get in there with the hogs and block for the running game. All right, now let's go directly to our tight end manual and talk about in general terms here now, the first couple of paragraphs or sections that we're going to talk about are not necessarily specific techniques and fundamentals, but just some concepts that we expect from our tight ends. And certainly with every position on the football team, we expect our tight ends to be competitive. Now these are intangibles. You don't have to be 6'5" and 252 pounds and run a 4.6 40 like Todd Heap, as I mentioned earlier, to have a competitive spirit. The things that we would expect our tight ends to do is to do everything at full speed. Okay, in regards to the passing game, obviously what we're talking about here is running all routes at full speed. All right. At each level of football, as you progress, again, from maybe the middle school to the high school, or from the high school to college, or from college to the pros, the speed of the game increases proportionately. And certainly at the major college level, where I've been coaching for many years, the speed of the game it cannot be overemphasized. If your players either refuse to, or you cannot bring out their best effort, they are not going to be able to keep up with the speed of the game. So we emphasize playing at your full speed. If a kid is 4'6", he should be playing every play at 4'6". If he's 4'9", he should be playing every play at 4'9". Okay? The other thing in terms of competitive spirit in regards to the passing games, you must go catch the football. All right? It isn't going to just come to you and stick to you. Okay? You've got to go get it and go to the football. Don't wait for it to come to you. And these things, in other words, kind of depend on the individual's desire to catch the football. He's got to want to go get it. And that has got to be his main focus. That ties in very closely now with concentration. In other words, concentrating on a football has to be the primary focus. He cannot be worrying about, getting hit, dropping the ball, all the negative kinds of things. He has to focus on the positives of going to the football, concentrating on a football, and catching the football. Okay? That's the only thing. Any diversion, he has to block out. That have the blinders on here. He has to basically have those kinds of blinders when he is running a pass route and going to the football when it's thrown to him. Okay, now there's a lot of things I know I'm going to talk about here that may be very basic, okay, to any level of football, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I go to NFL practices and camps and watch the coaches and the players, and they are teaching the basics. Okay, now their routes and reads and those kinds of things certainly might be more complex, but the basics remain the same, and they are very critically important to your success in catching the football. Okay, in other words, you concentrate on the nose of the ball. Okay, you've got to watch it all the way into your fingertips. Now, I didn't say hands, I said the fingertips. You try to catch the ball with your fingers, all right, not the palms of your hands. Obviously, and a lot of things that I say are going to be fairly obvious. That the receiver has to be mentally tough. Again, in order to avoid any diversions, any potential hits on you, you've got to be mentally tough in order to go get the football. Now, the other part of that is being mentally tough is, what if you don't catch the football? The ball's right there, boom, you've seen it happen many times. The receiver reaches, catches the perfect pass, boom, pops and drops to the ground. And how does that affect that individual? You can help him develop a toughness about it where he has to come back the next play, put that aside, and come back the next play. And if the ball comes to him, regardless of the circumstances, he's got to make the catch and move ahead. In other words, one play at a time is very important, and that's where your mental toughness is so critical. Okay. The term look and lock, okay? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later on as we get into more specific fundamentals and techniques, but catch, reach, catch, tuck and lock the ball away. Nothing can hurt your team more than maybe a drop pass is to catch the ball, be sloppy in putting it away or tucking it away, and have the ball stripped and the defensive opponent recovering the ball and resulting in a turnover, putting your team, particularly your defensive team, in a bad position, a turnover situation. The other thing that we can talk about in general terms at this point is you catch the football with both hands. Now you see some great catches occasionally with receivers, catching the ball with one hand, but not often, and that has to be a point of emphasis. I talked about here a minute ago being mentally tough, playing one play at a time, and the one at a time principle has been very important to us in all of our players, and certainly to receivers like the tight end, playing one play at a time. The other thing that we want to emphasize here in general terms is the tight end must understand his role, okay, and how he fits into the overall scheme of the passing game, and more specifically on a particular patterns which involve all of the receivers, how he fits into that scheme. And he has to know that his assignment is critically important to the success of that particular play, irregardless of whether or not he is a primary receiver, a secondary receiver, or maybe even a third receiver in the quarterback reads. So what do the way that we stress this point is, first of all, his breaking point depth for each route is crucial to the success of that play. Okay? He cannot break it off too soon. He cannot break it off too late, depending on the progression, the read progression of the quarterback and the overall concept of that particular pattern. So we have to then run our routes at the proper depth. Okay? Along with that, never change a route, okay? There are some exceptions to every rule, all right? And the exception to this rule, unless, okay, it's an option, what we call an option or a choice route, where that tight end is given the option, no pun intended here, to either break in, break out, go deep, where he has the option of running a route based on the defensive coverage. Okay. The other thing that we want to stress here in general terms at this point is when the ball is thrown to another receiver, we want the tight end to rally to the ball, run to the ball. We want to get as many of our colored jerseys to the football as quickly as we can to help the receiver, because once the ball is caught, he becomes a runner. And if we can get in front of the football, and I emphasize get in front of the football and execute a legal block, we have the opportunity to get that receiver extra yards necessary for a first down or to break it for a touchdown. So those are some of the general things that we are emphasizing in terms of competitive spirit, concentration, and understanding your role as the tight end in our passing game. Okay, now let's move on and talk about maybe some more specific techniques and fundamentals. All right, and this is again information that is gleaned or taken from our tight end manual. And as you can see, I have certain things highlighted here on this page as the previous pages, and for the sake of time, I cannot go over in a lot of detail, but I want to hit upon the highlights here in each area. Okay. So, first, obviously, if the ball is thrown to you, you've got to catch it. Okay. After the catch, that is when you want to think about a yardage, getting the first down, or scoring a touchdown. Okay. The next point I want to move down to and emphasize here is catching the ball in your fingers. And I talked about this just a moment ago in general terms, okay? The thing that we want to emphasize is, and later on when we talk, or when I show you, when I show you the videotape of our drill work, all of our drill work is catching the ball with the hands, not allowing the ball to come into the body, all right? Where it can bounce out, or the defender can reach in and deflect the ball. You outreach the defender. You catch it with your hands, your fingers, basically. All right? All right. After you catch the ball, you tuck it away securely, okay? And then in all drill work, most of the time, what we try to emphasize is catching the ball, tucking it away, and breaking up field, okay, to simulate a game situation. Never catch the ball and then tuck it away and then come back to the line of scrimmage. It's a game of habits, as we all know, and so we practice the good habits that you want the receiver to have. Okay, so simulate what you would do in a game. Now, we don't require if the goal line is 50 yards down the field, we don't require our receiver to run 50 yards. We don't have that many tight ends to begin with, but we want him to break up the field, for that 10 or 15 yards and then come back and get himself ready for the next repetition. Okay? We've already emphasized the point of running your patterns at full speed. Okay? You can't get good timing if you're only running half or three-quarter speed, particularly when you're working with your quarterbacks and other receivers. All right? Moving down now, we have to move on to some other points. 4.7 here, we talk having total creation in the huddle, to the line of scrimmage, and then throughout the play once the ball is snapped. Okay? You cannot go into the huddle and not get the proper information and process it by the time that you get to the line of scrimmage if you're not concentrating. And while at the line of scrimmage, you must be concentrating on what we refer to as pre- and post-snap reads. And we spend a lot of time with our tight ends going over practice tape and teaching them with overhead transparencies and those kinds of things, coverages, okay? In general terms, and specifically how coverages affect the tight end. By the time our tight ends are through our program, they have, I believe anyway, a very solid base of knowledge regarding general coverage concepts and specific techniques that defenders will use to try to defend the tight end. This involves getting a grasp on man-to-man, pre-snap and post-snap, zone coverages, and combination coverages. All of those, of course, are so prevalent in football, modern football. And, of course, we say pre- and post-snap reads because what a tight end will read before the snap may not necessarily be what he's going to get after the ball is snapped, because at our level, there is a good amount of disguise coverages. The defense will show you one thing before the snap and then move into another type of coverage after the snap. So we must concentrate and be able to make the proper adjustments if that is happening to us. Now, so of course, many times what the tight end reads pre-snap is what he's going to get post-snap, but it's not a guarantee. Okay, and know the complete picture, which is very important, and we addressed that a moment ago. Okay. Just like every receiver or every player really on the football field, we must know the situation, and that involves certainly down and distance, time remaining, score, those kinds of things. You got to be in the game, mentally alert and in the game, knowing what is going on. Okay. The next point, just quickly, the sidelines and the end zone lines are our enemies. And in the passing game, college football, you have to have one foot in bounds. Okay, and otherwise, a good catch is nullified by the sideline or the end zone lines. We want to keep our feet on the ground. That's a point of emphasis. In all of our drill work, we want to keep our feet on the ground unless it's absolutely necessary to leave the ground, to dive for a ball, or to go up and rebound the ball and out-rebound a defender. Okay. One of the things that we do is that we drill the bad ball. And as we get into the drill section of this discussion, we'll show you how we do that and some of the fundamentals that are involved in that. But not every pass is going to be perfect. We know that. And it doesn't matter. We have to be able to catch the football. If it's thrown to us, we've got to catch it, irregardless of where it is. And so that is one of the things that we emphasize here. Some other very basics, okay. Versus man-to-man coverage, okay. First man-to-man coverage, we are going to fake the man, not an area. You're not going to be faking, an area where there is not a defender. And I've seen this happen, and it's not necessary. What you do against man-to-man is you break down the cushion. What we mean by that is some people will use a 3-yard cushion. Other people will use an arm and a half. However you describe that cushion, you've got to get upfield into the defender before making your move. Okay. Before the snap, you should be thinking in terms of where you're going to be breaking your route in terms of depth, vertically, and also horizontally, if it's a crossing type of route. Okay? So again, I know I've mentioned this on several occasions, but you can't overemphasize it. You run your routes at the proper depth. Now there can be a slight variation in there depending on third and fourth down situations. Okay, I say slight because you don't want to break off too soon or too late, particularly on a timed route. And you just would probably have to make an adjustment on a timing type route, catch the ball, and then run for the first down if that were the case. If it was a route against man-to-man, you might have to break it off just a little quicker with the idea that the quarterback will probably be under stress from a blitz type of situation. Okay, let's move on and talk a little more about principles of pass route techniques, okay? Some of this is a little bit repetitive, and thus I will just mention it and move on, because we have talked about it earlier. Know and understand the theory of pass defense. In other words, know the best pass route technique versus the defense that's presented to us. Okay, I've already mentioned, and what I'm going to talk about here in the next few minutes now will elaborate on this a little bit more than we have. Okay, I guess you could say in general terms there are three categories of pass defense. Zone defense, which is an area type coverage, which could also include what we refer to as reroute techniques by the defensive safeties and linebackers generally. Man-to-man defense, which is fairly obvious. A man is locked up on you as a tight end, whether or not it is a linebacker or a safety. Generally, it could be a corner if you're, say, the single receiver to one side, depending on the defense adjustments to that situation. Or there are combinations of man and zone coverages. So we need to, as a tight end position, have an idea of what the defense is trying to accomplish with those kinds of coverages, but also then knowing how to adjust and beat those coverages with your techniques, your pass releases and routes. Principle of pass routes, just quickly, versus zone coverages, you eliminate moves. You don't want to be making a lot of moves because you're not going to be able to affect the coverage by running man routes. So again, you got to know whether it's zone or man. Okay. Basically, we're running straight line routes, which some people will call speed cuts versus zone. All right. Regardless of whether it's zone or man, the tight end cannot be held up, cannot be bumped, or forced out of the pattern by a linebacker or defensive back. We call these reroute, okay, where they try to reroute you and thus disrupt the pass route that you were running. And if they can do that, then they've really accomplished a great deal in disrupting your ability to throw the ball to the tight end. Many pass patterns are ruined because of the timing is off. Quarterback looks here, comes back to the second read, and he's not there, or he's not at the proper depth, or he's been held up. So that cannot happen. And the techniques and fundamentals that we will talk about later on, particularly in the videotape that we show, will illustrate how we teach avoiding this, getting held up and bumped and forced out of our patterns. Okay? All right. The term that we use here is that we need to take the easiest release to get off the line of scrimmage as quickly as we can, in other words, and sift the linebackers and or safeties. Sifting, in my terminology, and I teach it this way to the tight ends, is some of you young guys may not relate to this, but when I was young, I used to watch my grandmother and mother cook, and they had to use everything from scratch. They didn't have too many, the ready baked stuff. Okay, so they had a kind of a screen thing and they pour the flour and that kind of stuff into it and shake it, and the flour would go through it and it would eliminate all the lumps and so forth. Okay, does that make sense? Well, sifting, I teach this to the tight end. Sifting is that tight end going through that sifter fast. Okay, without getting hung up in there, along with the other lumps and so forth. Okay, I know that's may age me, but that's the concept that I use there, sifting. Okay, the release now against zone now is to avoid contact, straight line sprints. Okay, and when you reach the final depth, get into your final direction as quickly as possible without making moves, extraneous types of moves. Okay. The other aspect of this here is point D, come back to the ball. What you do is you adjust to the underneath coverage. The underneath coverage is primarily your linebackers in zone blitzes. Sometimes it involves a defensive lineman dropping out. Blitz a linebacker, replace him with a defensive lineman. So you have to be able to recognize those situations also. But regardless, the term that we use here in against zone coverages is find windows and then come back through the window. Okay, come back through the window. Don't just sit there looking through the window from the outside in. Come back through the window so that if the ball is thrown to you, you can catch the ball before the defenders are able to get to the ball. Okay, now let's move our emphasis to man-to-man defenses. Okay, man-to-man defenses, just go over some basic concepts here. Again, I'm not going to take every point because of lack of time. All right, let's start down here with point C. Okay, the move area is 3 yards from the defender, or as I mentioned earlier, you've got to close the cushion on a man defender. It has to be within 3 yards. Okay, now hopefully, while you're closing the cushion, you're able to get the defender to move his body in some way that will enable you to work off of his technique. If he turns his body in one direction, hopefully you'll be able to break away from that. Or you can get him to move laterally one direction or other and be able to move away from that lateral movement. Okay? But you have to close the cushion down first to get him to move. And of course, later on when we talk about option routes and so forth, that is very important also. All right. If you move too far from your opponent, he's going to be able to read your breaks and get on the break and get a good interception angle, which we'll talk about here in just a second. Okay, your final break must be sharp and direct. Okay, no arcs or circles. What you're doing here is you deny the interception angle. Okay, deny the interception angle. Okay, and in a minute here, I'm going to elaborate just a little bit more on that when I get down to the bottom of the page here and we talk about crossing the tracks. Because if you make arcs or circles, the defender can come under your route and break it up or intercept the ball. Okay. I mentioned a minute ago you try to get the guy turned, and the only way you can do that is to break down the cushion. Okay, get him running and break away from him sharply. So once you have done that, okay, and we'll talk in our drill tape about the arm pump and coming out of your break, and separate and run away. You separate and run away from man defenders. So generally then, what we've talked about in terms of zone is you find windows and you come back through the windows. Against man-to-man, you break down a cushion, you separate and run away. Okay? So you run away versus man. Okay? And you find windows versus zone. All right. The other thing I have down here is versus a trail or a bump man. And a lot of times, particularly in nickel and dime situations, they'll substitute a defensive back for a linebacker, and oftentimes what they will do, they will place that defender on the tight end in what we refer to as an exchange, in our terminology anyway, an exchange position. So he's right on the tight end at the line of scrimmage or within a yard or two of the line of scrimmage. Okay, and those kinds of defenders are, at least initially, coming off the line of scrimmage, you treat them like an outside linebacker. You've got to get released by them and get on top of them. In other words, get deeper than they are. Okay? So you get a good, clean, vertical release and get on top of the exchange defender. Okay? Get him in a trail position, in other words. The exchange defender, once you get on top of him, if you can, there's two things that you can do to help yourself once you make your final break away from him. One is to change your stem or your stick a little bit by moving slightly opposite the final direction of your break, to get that guy who's running on your hip to move away from where you're going to wind up going. Okay? Or the other technique is, we simply call it a shake and break, where you'll get to close to the final depth of your break, fake one direction, and break another. Okay? Now that's not only effective, of course, against an exchange defender, but it's also very effective against a man-to-man defender once you have broken down his cushion. Okay? Now, going back to this denying the interception angle by making sharp cuts rather than running arcs or circles against a man. And one of the terms, again, that we use here is crossing the tracks. Now, I've drawn right here some tracks. All right. Here is the tight end running his route, getting up the field, breaking down the cushion of the defensive back. If in this situation now he is going to break to the right, okay, now he could stem a little bit to the outside and then break inside, or stem to the left, break to the right. Or he could shake and break this situation. But irregardless, at the break point, he is going to be coming back across the tracks at a slight angle back toward the line of scrimmage. Okay? This will keep the DB on his hip. If he was to arc or circle, as I mentioned earlier, like this, then the DB can come underneath him and get the interception angle. That's so in very basic terms, that's what we're talking about there. Okay, deny the interception angle by crossing the tracks. Tight end releases. Okay. Now, when I've had to alter this just a little bit, but we only use 3 basic releases for the tight ends. I have heard people talk about they have 6 or 7 kinds of releases. Well, that's great, but you're talking about young players particularly. You've got to be able to teach them some very basic but effective techniques that they can utilize successfully in a game. And of course, if you can do a few things very well, you're much better off than trying to do too much and not doing any of them very well. I mean, that's just good teaching. Okay? All right, so the 3 releases that we teach are the arm under or the rip, the arm over or the swim, and what we refer to as a pressure release. Now this is used against the reroute techniques that are so common in football nowadays, on particularly the inside receivers. All right. Now, generally speaking, as it says here, generally, what technique you will use coming off the line of scrimmage depends on the height that your outside linebacker or safety or nickelback or dimeback, whoever might be playing on you. In other words, is he big and standing tall, then maybe your arm under technique would be preferred. Okay? If he's down, crouched low, and then maybe the arm over would be preferred or easier. Okay? One of the things that I'll emphasize here is, irregardless, when the ball is snapped, all moves on pass releases, okay, need to be upfield, going upfield, not along the line of scrimmage. You waste time by working laterally along the line of scrimmage. You don't have that time. You've got to get off the ball on the snap and get upfield as quickly as possible using the arm under, the arm over, and generally the reroute will occur farther upfield, off of a inside linebacker or a safety, so to speak. But sometimes the outside linebacker or the nickel or dime backs in an exchange situation will be bumping you off the line of scrimmage, and you have to use a pressure release type of technique. Okay. Now, let's just quickly look at the arm under. Okay, some of the things that you're trying to accomplish here. First, you want to take a quick diagonal step, and I say diagonal, not a lateral step, because a diagonal step will get you moving upfield at about a 45-degree angle. Okay, with a foot in the direction that you're going. Okay, get upfield and forward with the opposite foot as quickly as possible. Stay low, rip the far arm, okay, up. You want to turn your shoulders. So what we're trying to do here then is, as we're moving up the field, turn the shoulders, rip our arm through, and just like a rush man, a defensive lineman is trying to break down the arms of an offensive lineman, we're going to rip through and bring the hand above the head. So that as the defender's hands are trying to get into our body, you're actually raising his hands off of you with that rip movement. Okay? You cannot be flattened or pushed down laterally, either inside or flattened to the outside. This movement must take you up the field. What you're trying to do is to get hip to hip. If you can get hip to hip with that defender with the rip move, you've got him beaten. Okay? Because now you can work upfield. All right? If he is in your framework, either inside or outside, now your only alternative is to try to release back in the opposite direction, which is going to greatly slow down your release, and you don't want to have to do that, or flatten out before you get upfield, and he has accomplished then his job by rerouting you, and getting you out of your route. Okay, so that cannot happen. All right. Now, the jab and arm under, and the principles or the fundamentals of this is what it is. It's a fake, opposite the direction that you want to go. So what you would do in this case then is you would take a short diagonal jab step, and in the direction opposite. Again, I use the example of a defensive lineman. If he's going to use a move, there's three things that he wants, at least three things that he wants to try to sell. And you want to, as a tight end, are going to try to sell the defender on you. You're going to step, as I just mentioned right here and underlined it, okay? Step, short jab step, diagonal up the field with a foot opposite the direction that you want to go. You want to use your head and eyes, and your hand. You want to flash your hand. So there is a step, hand, eyes, with a head to sell the defender that you're going this direction. Okay? At this point now, you're going to step back with a foot in the direction of your final break and rip through or swim over. Okay? And again, it's very much the same principle that you would use upfield in shaking and breaking off of a man defender. Using the foot, hand, eye concept. Okay? To get the defender to move in one direction and run your route back. In the quick arm over or the swim move, the same basic footwork applies. However, what you will do is use the hand to the side of your release, okay, to club either the shoulder pad of the defender or to club the forearm of the defender to get his hands off of you. Now, if he's back off of you, the club would probably be on his forearms to get his hands collapsed here. If he's right up in on you tight, the club would probably be in the shoulder pad area. Boom, here. Okay, to get his shoulder pads turned a little bit. All right? And then, again, with the shoulders and the body moving upfield, once you've clubbed, you bring the far arm and the far leg through. This hand comes over, as an example, over as quickly as possible. You don't want to stand up and open up your body and your side and bring this hand way over here so that the defender can get up underneath you with his hands. You want to club, bring this hand over as quickly as possible along with the far leg coming through, and then just try to push off. As you bring and get hip to hip with him, push. Okay, on his upper shoulder pad or on the back to push him off of you and progress up the field. And then, just like with the arm under, you can incorporate the jab and arm over or the fake. And again, you would use, if I want my release is in this direction, I would step with my left foot, okay, flash the hand, turn the head and eyes without turning my whole body now, turn this way to sell the defender that this is my initial release. But in reality then, I step back and upfield with the foot in the direction of the release, okay, club and swim. All right. Again, that's the shake and break concept that you would use on a defender up the field. Okay. The next phase of our discussion today will focus on drills for the tight ends. Okay. And I'm not going to, I have these all written up, by the way, in the tight end manual, but I also have a tape that shows most of the drills that we use for the tight ends in the passing game. The thing I just want to mention right here, however, okay, a couple of points. And I know I don't want to be talking down to anybody, but I do believe these are very important. You don't drill just for drill's sake, okay? You build your drills, first of all, around game-like situations, all right? In order to do that, you have to prioritize your techniques, your blocks, which is not our topic of our conversation right now, your releases and your routes and your catching, okay? In other words, spend more times on the techniques and fundamentals that are going to be used the most. And your drills should develop those techniques, okay? Now, in this whole process, you need to know your players. You need to know what each individual player does the best and what he doesn't do very well. And obviously you want to use his strengths in a game plan situation, but you also want to overcome some of the, if you want to call them individual weaknesses, by helping him develop the proper techniques and fundamentals to get better in that aspect of his overall game as it applies to the passing. Okay, the tape that we're going to be looking at here is the tight ends in the passing game drills and game examples. The first drill is what we refer to as the cone drill. And as you can see here, we have 7 cones. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I've got a cone here, here, and here, which puts limits on the tight ends as they work this drill. We're working on a square cut, first to the left and now secondly to the right. What we're trying to accomplish here basically is to, if you could visualize a chair, it has four legs. To make a square cut, you use 4 steps. Okay, first the inside foot, the outside foot, the inside foot, the outside foot in order to come under control. And on that 4th step, okay, or the 4th leg of the chair, you're going to pivot off of that. So if I'm making a cut to the right, if I'm making a cut to the left, it's the right foot is down, my left foot comes up, and the toe of the left foot is pointed in the direction of the cut, which in this case is to the left. While I'm taking those 4 steps, okay, inside, outside, planning and pivoting off of that outside, that 4th step, my head is up, my butt drops, my eyes are on the defender, the elbows are in, and the arms are moving. And you can see that, those fundamentals, as we move through this drill. First, cut to the left, cut to the right. Then I'll come back and we'll use our shake and break move. Again, as I explained earlier, what we're doing is we're step, flash the hand, flash the eyes. The footwork remains the same. All we're doing now is adding the fake, or the shake and break move. Of course, this would be used against man coverage, not against zone. You don't make moves against zone. Now we go the opposite direction. Same footwork, but we add the foot, the hand, and the eyes to get the defender to move opposite our break. As you can see, we start very slowly with this drill and emphasizing footwork, body, elbows in. We go from the square cut to the 45-degree cut here. So now, still the same footwork, but we lift that foot up and we point it in a 45-degree angle, which is coming back toward the line of scrimmage. The foot in the direction of the cut comes up, and the toe points in the direction of the cut. You don't want to round these. These are sharp, either 90 or 45-degree angle breaks. Now we go the opposite direction. 45-degree break to our right, to our left, and to our left again. Two of these players are currently playing in the NFL. 87 is with the 49ers. The player just before him, Vikings. I might add that number 86 here is an academic All-American. 88, Matt Sircone with the Vikings. 87, Brian Jennings with the 49ers. Zach Romero here, number 89. Okay, now these drills can be used in your PE classes, in your off-season conditioning, and that's what we're doing here. This is a morning workout in the off-season. Basically, now I've set this drill up just a little bit differently. As you can see here, we've got a cone in the middle, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that in a moment. What we're doing here is basically the same thing that you saw in the previous drill work with the 7 cones working on the square cut fundamentals to the left and to the right. Now we do, again, the shake and break, foot, hand, eye, getting the defender to move opposite of our final break. This is Todd Heap here, first round draft choice by the Ravens. Now we're working our shake and break move opposite, faking to the left, breaking to the right. All of the, again, emphasis, the footwork, the body position, the eyes are up, the elbows are in, the arms are working. We're just adding a little shake move to it. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to do an M drill. And then at the end of this M drill, I'm going to be throwing a ball to the, coming out of the final break right here. I'm going to throw the ball to him. And in this case, I'm using a tennis ball. Now, obviously, if you were able to, by rules, use a football in this drill, and we use a football during the season. But in college football, as you know, there's a lot of restrictions on what we can do with a football in the off season. Basically, you can't use a football if a coach is present. So what I'm using here is a tennis ball, which is fine. You know, again, you got to concentrate, making good 40-foot right, left, right, come out of the final break, and be ready to catch the ball. Now, we're under the lights here early in the morning. These guys, we're trying to wake them up right now. Oh, we've dropped the last 2 balls. Concentration. Maybe I'm not throwing them very well either. Catch the ball in the hands. There we go. And tuck it away. Now there's a lot of things you can do with this drill, or these drills, in addition to the basic footwork, body position, eyes up, elbows in, arms working through into and out of the break. You can add defenders to it. Put an outside linebacker as an example on the tight end, and have him work your releases, your rip or arm under, your arm over or your swim move, your shake and break coming off the line of scrimmage. And that's what I've done here. Tight end and outside linebacker, little shake and break, clubbing the arms and swimming with the left arm here. Okay, there was a rip move, arm under. Same drill, just add a little different element to it. So you're working multiple, in this case you're working releases and the proper footwork going into and out of a break and catching the ball and tucking it away. Always try to have a finish element to your drills. In this case, they're catching, tucking, and then they're handing the ball back to me. Rip, 45-degree, catch the ball. Well, when you come out of the break, one of the things that I'm trying to do here is to throw the ball quickly so that the head and eyes precede the body as you come out of a break, right there. And you can see the ball quickly that way. If you wait for your body to get into a break and a quarterback is throwing the football, you may not see the ball until it hits you in the head or the shoulder pads or the body. The next drill that we have here on the tape is what we refer to as a release and sift. I've talked about the sift movement right now. You do not want to get hung up on linebackers either at the line of scrimmage or up the field, at either the second or third levels. That could apply to a strong safety has come down to man up on you, as an example. So you release off the line of scrimmage, you work your releases right here, then you're sifting off of linebackers. Now certainly you don't have to sift off of 3 or 4 linebackers at different levels, but I want them to work with a push, swim, push, swim, push, swim. Get the hands off of you, keep working vertically up the field, and do not get hung up or reroute it. Now we just turn around, come back the opposite direction. Outside linebacker, or safety. So we're moving as quickly as we can off the line of scrimmage, working our rip and swim moves, our shake and break, and then sifting off of linebackers and safeties as we move vertically up the field. Very simple drill, but it's effective in teaching the concept of getting clean, easy releases and releasing by linebackers and safeties. Head pop. I believe this is one of the very best drills to get as many possible repetitions as possible in catching the football. We have 2 lines here. You've got throwers down here. We just start easy, running in place. What we're doing is throwing the ball right at eye level, forearm level. We reach, catch, tuck the ball either in the right hand or the left hand. You see the head pop. Then we throw the low ball. Low ball here. Now you want your little fingers together instead of your thumbs together to make a nice tight noose around the football, and then you alternate tucking left and right. What we want to do is bend our knees. Bend the knees, get down on the low ball. Now the next phase, turn the receivers, and you're throwing it into their forearms in front of them. They got to reach, catch, thumbs together, and you alternate tucking the ball in the right and left hand. Here we see mostly tucking in the right hand. But you see the head and the eyes going all the way to the tuck. The thing that we are also emphasizing here is what we refer to as 4 points of pressure. What I mean by 4 points of pressure, and again, this is very basic, but it's so important. Catching the football, if the ball is above the waist, basically you want to catch it with your thumbs together, making a noose with your thumbs and your first fingers like this. Catch the ball, squeeze, tighten the noose, and tuck it away. And the head pop, as I was talking about here as we looked at the head pop drills, is to head and eyes all the way to the tuck. Now when you get to the tuck, the 4 points of pressure that I referred to is the front point of the ball should be here between these two fingers, right here, squeezing the ball. The back of the football should be squeezed by the elbow, so you should not be able to see the back of the ball because your elbow is squeezed over it. The other 2 points of pressure would be your forearm on the outside of the ball and that little groove right in here under the pec on the inner side of the football. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 points of pressure as that ball is tucked in nice and tight here, and you still have a good running motion, all right? But the ball is not going to be able to be knocked out, pulled out, if it's in there good and secure with 4 points of pressure. The other thing that I mentioned here on the low ball, ball's below the waist, little fingers together, and you move the window thusly. So you catch the ball, you bend your knees, you reach down, you catch, and you tuck either in the right hand, catch, tuck it in the left hand. Now the next phase of the head pop is the ball thrown behind us. Again, a bad ball. What you want to see here, and you emphasize, you want to plant, in this case, the right foot. You want to turn your hips and shoulders and come back and catch the ball with both hands. Then you want to tuck the ball and continue to run in the direction of the break. Now we also throw the low and behind ball. This is probably the most difficult catch of all. The ball that's thrown low and behind. You want to plant, turn your hips and shoulders, get your little fingers together, catch the ball with 2 hands, get it tucked away, and come back. Now we turn and face the other direction. Now the ball is thrown basically at the right forearm. You want to reach, catch, reach out in front, catch the ball in front if the ball is thrown properly, and tuck the ball either in the left or the right hand. You can alternate left and right with this drill. Most of what they're doing here is tucking in the left hand. Okay? It's important that your throwers throw the ball properly. What we use here now are kickers. A lot of the kickers are ex-quarterbacks. Here's the ball thrown high and behind. Again, plant the left foot, rotate the hips and shoulders, catch the ball with 2 hands. Now it's low and behind. You alternate from high and behind, then low and behind. Most difficult catch is the low and behind ball. Okay, now, versus zone, what you want to do is to come back to the ball, catch the ball, pivot, and split zones. And what we're doing here is alternating, stepping with the right foot, pivot, and split the zone. Or step with the left foot, pivot, and split the zone. Now obviously you have to catch the ball, get it tucked, pivot, and split the zone. It's very basic fundamentals. As we get into game examples, you will see the carryover from these drills to game situations. If you don't see any carryover, you ought to change your drills or change your teaching techniques. Okay, finding the window now. Finding the window. The final break, this is what we basically say the last 2 or 4 steps of a break. As you break this down and watch their footwork now, that was a very poor repetition because we're rounding it. That's a poor repetition. I'm not doing a good job of emphasizing what I want here. I want to come back through the window, catch, pivot, and get up the field without running an arc or a circle. Now what we had done there is we step, come back to the ball at a 45-degree angle, reach, catch, tuck, pivot, and split the zone. That's probably the best rep right there. Get your numbers. 2, there was a good rep as far as footwork. The ball wasn't thrown. He's having a hard time. He's rounding it after he catches it. Boom, there. That was decent, not real good. That was a little bit better. Now we're working away from the quarterback. That was a very good rep right there. Plant, find the window. That's a good rep. We prefer not turning back inside. Pivot on the left foot and split the zone. Of course, some of these balls are not thrown real well, and it's hard to make the example. Okay, now we put the ball to our left side, so we're breaking on our right foot, coming back through the window in a 45-degree angle. Catch, that was a very good rep right there. Okay, we're getting better. Catch, there, good catch, pivot, and split the zone. Good rep. Again, on all of these, you have the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, a push swim technique off of a linebacker. What we're doing here now is getting a release off the line of scrimmage. A linebacker is sitting on top of us, and we're trying to get our inside arm to push and our outside arm to swim as we come back inside the defender. So we have a linebacker or defender on the line of scrimmage. Then we have an inside linebacker basically at the point or the depth of our break. So we're using what we refer to as a push-swim move here and breaking to the inside. Then getting our head to the ball as quickly as we can, catch, tuck, and run. Get up the field. Get up the field. Push, swim, reach, catch, tuck, and get up the field. Using a variety of different releases off the line of scrimmage, but basically a push-swim move off of the linebacker. Now, what we're doing is simulating finding the first window after our push-swim move. Instead of running across the field into a zone defender swim, set down in the zone or in the window, catch, tuck, pivot, and get up the field. So we had the catch, tuck, pivot versus zone. Still working to release off the line of scrimmage. Either rip or swim. Finding the window, getting our numbers to the quarterback so he can hit us in the chest or forearm. Now, one of the other things that we work to on these releases off of a linebacker is what that's push swim move. Now we can put a little bit more, make it more physical when we're in full pads. Boom, and that's exactly what a linebacker is going to do. He's going to really try to collision us. We've got to get into him, be physical, keep our pads low, push, swim, sit down in the window, and catch the football. So you've got to be able to get off of defenders that are trying to reroute you. Okay, the next drill, catch drill here now that you see is what we call a distraction drill. We put our hand on the shoulder pad and kind of push and pull him a little bit. The other hand, which is closest to the ball, is kind of waving, and the receiver has to concentrate, reach, catch, and tuck. You cannot let the hand pulling on his shoulder distract him. He cannot let the hand that's waving in his face distract him. The 4-and-1 drill is one of the best drills to combine all of the fundamentals that we've talked about. Release off the line of scrimmage, making a good square cut at the break point, sifting by a linebacker, catch, tuck, and then as we work up the field, dip and rip off of a defender. Now again, you can add many elements to this, different kinds of releases at the line of scrimmage. Okay, square cut, sift the linebacker, catch, tuck, dip and rip, which gives you the 4-and-1. In other words, 4 techniques in one drill. Here's an outside release, Square cut with a shake and bake, sift the linebacker, catch, tuck, dip, and rip. And you want to add the element of full speed. Now here we're using bags, the pop-up bags, which are also very good. Keep them in bounds. Use the sideline to keep them in bounds. Catch the ball, turn, dip and rip the potential tackler, stay in bounds, and get the extra yards. So again, there's different ways to do this. Now, let's look at some one-on-one drills against DBs and see if we can apply some of the fundamentals that we had learned earlier in our drill work. Now, one of the things that, of course, one-on-one implies that it's all man-to-man, okay? If the defender gives the tight end or the receiver a soft cushion, he stays 3 or more yards off of him, you never want to use a shake and break move on him. Just a good speed cut, stay square across the tracks. You run away from him, okay? If he's sitting down on you real tight, within 3 yards at the break point, then you may want to add a shake and bake, or get him to run in one direction and break away from him. And in all these examples, you can kind of go back and see the application of some of the release and catch drills that we had worked on previously. Now, as we move into the game examples, as I mentioned earlier, the emphasis is going to be on what we refer to as the tight end option routes. And we have 3 basic option routes. We call them different things. And the first one is what we refer to as Y read. Okay? If I could put the tight end in here, the football, the Y read is an option route where the tight end has ultimately 4 different routes that he can run. One would be a streak, a corner, a post, or a hook route to the outside, with the break point, okay, at 10 yards. Okay, the break point at 10 yards. This is what we refer to as our Y read. Now, even when we start this concept of the Y read route or the deep option route, we may start with a young tight end and just call, Y corner, Y streak, Y post, those kinds of things. Then we start, as we get better at it and develop the package, we have him then reading. If it's man coverage or whether it's zone coverage, obviously you do not want to run a post route if you have a free safety sitting in here. Okay? He needs to either run a streak or a corner route. If Todd Heap, the kind of player that he was, eventually people stopped trying to defend him with one defender, which was nearly impossible to do. So they started bracketing him. And as he worked into bracket coverages with a free safety as an example and a corner, depending on how deep the corner got, he would break that thing off into a hook, an outside hook, or if the corner got deep, he could come under him. If there was no free safety in the middle, in other words, X that out, then he could break away from the corner to the post if he had outside leverage. Okay, if he had inside leverage, then he would break to the corner. Or if he was sitting right on him and he could break the cushion down before he got to 10 yards, then he would turn it into a streak. And these are examples that you're going to see on the tape that we're going to be looking at. Then the other type of option route was basically what we referred to as a Y choice. Okay, tight end. Now this was a 6-yard break point, and the tight end would read the underneath coverage, or the number two, the second level coverage. If it was zone, he would find the windows between the two inside linebackers. All right. If it was man, he would get the man defender to move with him, and then he would break away from him. So, in its very basic sense, if you had two inside linebackers, okay, and they were in zone drop, the tight end would get an easy inside release, and he would spot 6 yards over the ball. Okay, and the quarterback would take a quick 5, throw the ball. We would catch, tuck, pivot, and split the zone in its very simplest form. Okay, now that's with two inside linebackers. As you look at the tape, and I'll show you examples of this, maybe you have 3 inside linebackers, like a 4-3 look. Now what the tight end would have to do is determine what the Mike backer's doing. Okay, now if the Mike backer drops straight back, and you get this type of drop, now the window is between the first 2 inside linebackers. So now the window is 6 yards deep between the Mike and the Sam backer. And you'll see this in the game examples. Okay? Now, the third type of option route that we run is, we just called it Y option. Okay? Now, the Y option also has a 10-yard break point, like the Y read that I talked about earlier. However, this would be either turn into an out, a 90-degree out route, or a 90-degree in route. So the tight end then at the 10-yard would make his break, depending on the coverage, either out or in. Now it was man coverage, obviously, and if the man defender had inside leverage, in other words, he was sitting on the tight end's inside, he's going to break it out. You beat his technique. If the leverage is on the outside here, then he's going to break it in. Now there are certainly a lot of variations of zone coverage, and in that situation, and earlier in the drill tape, you saw us working on finding windows, getting the shoulders turned, the numbers turned to the quarterback. One of the things that one of the drills that we run, and I did not have it on the tape, is getting the tight end to find either the first window or the second window, which means as he runs his option route, okay, pushes vertical, reads zone coverage, and the linebacker has worked into, or worked wide, let's put it this way, working across, he will come right into the first window. Okay? If the linebacker is sitting in the first window, then he must work immediately into the second window before he sits down. All right? So that's a good drill, adding some cones basically to give them the concept of the first window, second window. When you're running an option route versus zone. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the game video now of these 3 different option routes. Okay, the first series of option routes is the Y read. Okay, the tight end is up here on the offense's left to the top of the screen. And he is running. I'm going to back it up here. We're trying to man him up with a single defender right here. The defender turns his hips inside, so he runs a deep route off of his outside hip. Ball's thrown to the outside. Okay, in this example, the second example, the tight end is here on the bottom of the screen. He's got a release off the outside linebacker. He's got a single defender here. All right. Now, the free safety, even though this ball was not completed, the single took away the outside, and the free safety worked away from him, so he broke it to the post. A little better throw, we'd had a touchdown. Tight end to the top of the screen on the offense's right. There's a single defender on top of him. This is obviously man coverage. So what he does now, makes a little bit of stick move to the outside, and I'm going to rewind it. Gets on top of him, and we get a touchdown out of it. Gets that defender he gives him a stick move to the outside, gets the defender to open his hips to the outside, then a little swim move back, gets on top for the touchdown. Okay, tight end is to the offense's right. We have a kind of a bracket situation. Although it does turn into a zone coverage. But let's look again. I'll back it up. Look what the defender, the free safety, let's put, first of all, works to the deep middle, and the corner turns his hips inside, so the tight end works outside to a corner route, and he kind of runs a banana on that, rather than trying to take it deep because the defender was there, worked away from him, rather than trying to take it deep because the defender was there, worked away from him. Okay, the next example now, we have two tight ends in. Watch the tight end at the bottom of the screen. All right, almost exactly the same situation as we saw just a moment ago, where the free safety is held in the middle by the tight end on the left side. The corner turns his hips to the inside, and the tight end bellies out. A little banana corner route for a completion. Okay, let's go ahead to the 6-yard option route now. We call a choice route. We have two inside linebackers. The tight end splits the two backers, gets numbers to the quarterback, pivots, and runs up the field. Let me back that up just a second to that example. Again, two inside linebackers. So he splits the two inside linebackers to a spot 6 yards over the ball. Catch, tuck, pivot. He turns a 6-yard route into a 13, 14, 15-yard gain. Okay, in the second example now, you have three inside linebackers, a 4-3 look. But you see the tight end now find the window between the Sam and the Mike backer, basically over the right guard. Spot 6 yards. The quarterback does an excellent job. I'm going to back it up again, of putting the ball on the left number, away from the Mike backer. The tight end, catch, tuck, pivot. Again, he turns a 6-yard route into a 15-yard gain. Okay, tight end on the right side. Two inside linebackers. However, this is man coverage. I want to back it up because you see a great job of running the football after the catch. He gets his head around, he recognizes man, he gets his head around, the ball comes out, dip and rip, dip and rip. He actually knocks two defenders off of him by getting his shoulders down and ripping through them. Okay, here's another example of a linebacker. Now the Mike backer drops, I'm going to back it up again, the Mike backer drops strong, actually too fast. The Mike backer here drops strong, So the tight end comes inside of him to the spot 6 yards over the ball. Ball is thrown to his outside number. He gets up the field after the catch. Okay, here is a wall technique by the Mike backer, or a reroute. This happens a lot nowadays, where the Mike backer is going to sit down and try to keep the tight end from running a vertical route, or sit down on top of him if he's trying to spot up over the ball. So what we're going to try to do here is to get our upfield shoulder and really collision the Mike backer. Try to get him back off of it, back on his heels, and then come back into the window between the Mike and the Sam backer. I'm going to show it one more time, where you can see this pressure release coming in, bam, and coming back out into the window. Now the 10-yard option route with a tight end running an out route. Okay, I'm going to back it up. This is man coverage, and the man defender is sitting on the inside shoulder. So what does he do? And he's giving him his soft cushion as well. So we run the route away from the inside leveraged defender. And there's no need for a shake and break because it was a soft 3-yard or more cushion. Okay, now we're going to run an in route with the tight end on the left side. This is a too tight formation, but I want you to focus on the tight end on the left side. It's a zone drop. The defender's on his outside. The tight end does a great job, and the quarterback as well, of finding the window between the underneath coverage, between the two inside linebackers. The thing you see the tight end do here, find the window and get his shoulders turned. He doesn't run through the window and get in behind the inside linebacker. Once he finds that first window, he gets his numbers to the quarterback, and the quarterback puts it on him. He catches the ball, and he gets up the field, splitting the zone. Okay, the next example is the tight end running an in route. On this option, he breaks it in, and he gets into the second window because there's a linebacker that jumps the back coming out, and before he gets into the backside defender, he sits down, gets his numbers to the quarterback, makes the catch. So those are our 3 option routes for the tight end: the read, the choice, and the option. I appreciate the opportunity to present this material to you, and my real desire is that it's helpful to you and your tight ends and your program.